I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Less than 8 years later, Apollo astronauts in lunar orbit photographed the living Earth hanging above the barren moon, one image that united two very different worlds. Separated for eons by the gulf between the heavens and the earth, these worlds became one, linked forever in the human psyche. Two worlds sharing the same orbit around the sun, turning under the same stars, blown by the same solar wind, warmed by the same sunlight, separated by just over a light second, but as different as day and night, as life and death. Two worlds joined by gravity with more than 4 billion years of common history. Were they born together, or did they find each other in the crowded early solar system? Ancient rocks preserved on the airless barren moon show that these companion worlds are related, like a mother and daughter. But the moon is much less dense than Earth, an Earth without its iron core. Lunar rocks lack volatile compounds like water, but are rich in elements with high boiling points. Once they must have been Earth rocks, vaporized by a catastrophe powerful enough to rip worlds apart. More than 4 billion years ago, a young sun's gravity brought little order to its unruly solar system. Too many tiny worlds shared the same flattened disk. A young Earth, without its companion moon, grew by collecting debris strewn along its orbit. Meanwhile, another world also was forming, in an orbit crossing Earth's. A collision was inevitable. It was just a matter of time, and the universe always has had plenty of time. With each orbit, the early moon raised tides that flooded and then drained Earth's coastlines and stirred the depths of its oceans, supplying energy and motion to mix the primordial stew from which the building blocks of life would emerge. Gradually, life, carried on the tides, climbed from the sea onto the land, and in time learned to walk, to dream, and to reach for the moon overhead.
0, we have a liftoff.
9 million pounds of thrust overcame gravity's bonds as the mighty Saturn V propelled 50 tons of metal and human spirit toward the moon.
Okay, babe, it's looking good here. Roll is complete. We are pitching.
This is Mission Control, Gene Cernan reporting the launch vehicle maneuvering to the progress.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Here, men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969, AD. We came in peace for all mankind. How's that?
At 6 landing sites, humans encased and enshrouded in spacesuits stepped eagerly and awkwardly away from the lunar lander and planted a flag on the lifeless surface of the airless moon, claiming for all mankind Earth's last continent and largest space station.
That's very good, Gene. Let me get it in stereo. Houston, that's beautiful. This has got to be one of the most proud moments of my life, I guarantee.
Imagine being the first geologist on a huge, unexplored world full of rocks, dust, and unsolved mysteries. The lunar soil is rocky debris crushed by meteorite impacts into a substance as fine as talcum powder that clings to everything it touches, turning spacesuits a dingy gray. Back in the air of their lander, astronauts noticed that the moon dust on their suits smelled like gunpowder. Simple experiments show the effects of lower gravity and no atmosphere. Watch as Dave Scott drops a falcon feather and a hammer. Compare their speeds on the airless moon.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather for our falcon. And I'll drop the two of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that? Which proves that Mr. Galileo was correct. Good. This is really a rock and roll ride, isn't it? Never been on a ride like this before. Oh boy. I'm glad they got this great suspension system on this thing.
Scotty, this is so great you can't believe it. I believe it, Charlie.
To go farther and see more, NASA invented a battery-powered rover with wire mesh wheels, capable of exploring the moon and perhaps becoming a prototype for tomorrow's lunar dune buggies. The rover rode piggyback to the moon outside the lunar module, attached to it like a mattress tied on the top of a car. Once lowered, it unfolded like a backpacker's tent. It could zip along at a top speed near 10 miles per hour, with small fenders deflecting rooster tails of dust. In the moon's low gravity, a bump sent astronauts and rover off the ground on a very bouncy wild ride. Imagine being the first humans on this barren world, the first to see a place, kick a rock, stir up dust, or leave footprints and rover tracks in its timeless soil. All expressions are inadequate. The experience of a lifetime wrapped in a few precious hours in a place to which you can never return.
Like powdered charcoal to the sole and sides of my boot. Outstanding. Outstanding. Okay, get the other deck out. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. Now, May, when much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes. Oh, is this a neat way to travel? Isn't it great? Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. 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 I like to skip along. Not me, boy. Skip. John, I'm going to take that SCB number 2, my camera, and I'm heading home. Okay. Boy, is this fun. This Valley of History has seen mankind complete its first evolutionary steps into the universe, leaving the planet Earth and going forward into the universe. I think no more significant contribution has Apollo made to history. It's not often that you can foretell history, but I think we can in this case.
Gene Cernan, the last man to walk on the moon, remembers.
I slowly pivoted, trying to see everything, and was overwhelmed by the silent, majestic solitude. Not so much as a squirrel track to indicate any sort of life. Not a green blade of grass to color the bland, stark beauty. Not a cloud overhead, nor the slightest hint of a brook or stream. But I felt comfortable, as if I belonged here. From where I stood on the floor of that beautiful mountain ring valley, the moon seemed frozen in time.
It's been more than 30 years since Gene Cernan left the moon. Perhaps the space stations of today will ultimately lead to a return to Earth's largest space station, the moon. And a future mission control center will document human and robotic exploration of the moon's many resources. The moon's most precious resource may be water. Since its birth, rocky asteroids and icy comets have crashed into the moon and pockmarked its face. Each comet impact also delivered water ice to this dry world. At the poles, colonies in perpetual twilight can mine the moon for this trapped ice. The moon has raw materials. Oxygen makes up 44% of the moon's weight. Astronauts will mine surface rocks for oxygen to breathe and to use as rocket fuel. They can turn the moon's silicone into solar cells and computer chips and cast its soil into beams, rods, plates, tubes, and glass fibers. The moon has solar energy with no atmosphere to block sunlight during the long lunar day. Robots can manufacture solar cells from lunar soil. Then solar power stations, made of lunar materials, will collect sunlight and beam the energy to Earth as microwaves. The moon is rich in an energy fuel called helium-3, produced in the sun's core. For billions of years, this stardust has fallen on the moon, while Earth's atmosphere blocks it from settling on Earth. The moon's helium-3 could fuel tomorrow's nuclear fusion reactors on Earth. The moon's far side is quiet and undisturbed by radio noise blaring from Earth. In these silent, wide-open spaces, rows of radio dishes, made from lunar materials, capture images of distant galaxies and listen for signals from distant alien worlds. The moon protects the genome of life. The greatest threat to life on Earth is probably the impact of an asteroid or comet. Such a direct hit destroyed more than half of the species on Earth 65 million years ago. An Earth impact will not damage ecosystems on the moon. The moon can support enclosed terrestrial biospheres, complete with plants and animals for oxygen, food, and companionship. Here, a 120-pound human weighs only 20 pounds and can jump 6 times higher than on Earth. In a pressurized dome, humans wearing wings can actually fly. The Lunar Olympic Games will break all terrestrial records, featuring pole vaults of more than 120 feet, long jumps more than 180 feet, weightlifting of more than an Earth ton, and graceful gymnasts leaping 6 times higher than they can on Earth. Life on the moon may become so pleasant that visitors dread returning to the oppressive gravity pull of Earth, a force that increases their moon weight 6-fold. A return to the moon is possible after a journey of only 24 hours from low Earth orbit. Pretend the future is now and the moon is waiting. Welcome to the future moon, sustainable, self-sufficient, and profitable. A producer of solar power and fusion fuel. A platform for the most powerful deep space telescopes. A source of raw materials to build, launch, and fuel tomorrow's spaceships. A home for the first humans to call another world home, and the living companion of Mother Earth.